And with that, let's welcome in Bernie Kosar, a new grandfather to the show. Bernie,
hey, Bernie. Bernie,
thank you.
This.
I wanted to be in studio today. On Friday, we were talking about wanting to be in studio, post a big Browns W. That didn't transpire so much, so to the point where the game was so challenging, my daughter went into labor 9 weeks early. So the day ended up awesome, and now you're talking to a first-time grandfather here.
That's awesome.
Oh,
what is
great.
you have a grandson, granddaughter? What is their name, and how's your daughter doing?
Granddaughter, and my daughter's doing fantastic. Thanks for asking.
What's your granddaughter's name?
So that is to be determined right now, and we were talking about it just as I was getting ready to come on air, and the true professional that I'm trying to attempt to be left that to make sure I was on time here for the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show.
When do you start breaking down cover 2 defenses with her?
Well, actually, during the night as we were waiting, and then being early in the ICU and stuff, she actually did see the all 22 copy of the Cowboys Browns game yesterday. So my daughter, and who has had to see that before, but now my granddaughter has had her first foray into a Browns all 22 copy.
I love it.
Bernie, I know you are Mr. Positivity, and we love you for it, but there's not much positive to take from that first game, is there?
I love how you say I'm Mr. Positivity, and here in a day today, sitting here outside the hospital with a granddaughter and my daughter being healthy, I couldn't be more positive from that perspective.
Sure.
And it actually last night made me think about sometimes I haven't had great balance in my life. My love of football, my commitment, whether when I was playing, to obsessively want to just somehow, some way, the Jimmy Johnson line, end up with a W, so that you don't have this negative football feeling on a Monday morning, was something I super obsessed about. And as the game was going on yesterday, and typically that's how I would have been feeling, depressed, disappointed, in that when I got the call that the game was going so bad that my daughter's in labor, and it really kind of put things in perspective, maybe sometimes to ultimately some other things that are more important than that. So to end up from that perspective, with a healthy daughter and granddaughter, I'm festive with that. But from the football perspective, this is what today, and Bull, you're so right. There's nothing really to sugarcoat in terms of how disappointed we are today, the fans are, but even more so the players and the coaches and the organization. And the words of Marty Schottenheimer ring so hard in my head right now. And Marty, in his strong belief, and he used to say, have the gleam, man, have the gleam to pursue the Super Bowl. And he goes, one of the hardest things to do is that first football game. Absolutely, you want to win it. You want to be 1-0. But back then we had 16 games, not 17. And he kept saying, you have to remember that the season is a marathon. It's not a sprint. And if the first game doesn't go according to plan, and obviously it didn't yesterday, you still have 15 more opportunities, or in our case, 16 more opportunities. So as depressed and sad as we are today, also I so believe, although the players, coaches, organization also are, but those words of Marty of remembering it's a marathon, and then getting back to some of the core basics. And we saw yesterday that offensively we're disjointed. We're not running the ball and trying to figure out a more consistent way, but not panicking yet. And I'm hearing a lot of the pundits today saying extreme things. And again, Marty Schottenheimer's words keep ringing in my head that it's a marathon, and don't go with drastic changes and panic button after week one.
Bernie, I looked at the Browns last week. I said, one of the things that they have to do is stay consistent with the run game. Not so much that you have to have big chunk plays or that you need Jerome Ford to have 100+ yards. But I look at the game plan that the Dallas Cowboys had. Zeke isn't the Zeke of old, but they still were married to the run game. Still gave the Browns something to have to defend. It just seemed like the game plan early on was to come out and throw the football. I know they were behind the sticks with a lot of penalties, but I just think that they have to commit to the run more. Were you a little surprised that there wasn't more of an emphasis? And I get, later on in the game, when you're down, you're behind, you're going to have to throw the ball. But I think they should have had a bigger emphasis on at least staying with the run a little more to keep, especially that pass rush off base.
Yeah, so G. Bush, your point's absolutely well taken, and in retrospect, it's something that you want to alter this today and this week heading into Jacksonville. We were talking about it through the off season a little bit, and for sure in the last couple weeks about who and what is our personality going to be, and when are we going to be a spread 2-minute throwing offense, or are we going to be the play action run game that we were kind of built around at the end of last season? And one of the things that we saw in preseason that we talked about was we were doing both, and we were showing both things and multiple things to teams like Dallas coming up, and then what Jacksonville's going to see from us. But you could see going into the game that it was mostly all the no back, one back spread, almost all shotgun. And the successful running game tends to be challenged these days in that spread shotgun one back where you're just doing the ride play, the ride off tackle belly play, that you can see now NFL defenses understand how to cover that and how to defend that because they've been seeing it for almost 10 years now, versions of this type play. So not having that under center, multiple tight ends running game yesterday allowed the Cowboys defense to get off more in pass rush. And the Cowboys are undersized. And in retrospect, G. Bush, you're right. I really would have liked to have done more running. We talked about it when I came in the studio last Thursday about not letting Michael Parsons have free runs and having tackle or having extra tight ends or backs in there chipping him and stuff. But also then when you have a superstar pass rusher, we also talked about in the run that is super fast, that could go lateral, side to side, and even stats there: 1 sack, 3 tackles, 1 assist. He had 8 quarterback hits yesterday. But those type guys, man, I love to run right at them. And G. Bush, you're right too. The lateral fast speed pass rushers, when you put bodies on them and you bang them hard. And here I am spiritually happy here at the hospital with my daughter and granddaughter. But some of the ill-intentioned ways that you have to think in your brain to physically attack that front four, and in particular Micah Parsons, and you do that in the running game, and we didn't do that. And then when you see, and those guys see that it isn't going to be that more running game, and now you are behind and you're behind the sticks, now the jailbreaks start in terms of the pass rush. And that is what we saw through the majority of the game yesterday.
Bernie, if you're the head coach, how do you approach this week in terms of trying to fix Deshaun? Because there's something broken. So what do you do? You got 6 days now. What do you do as the coach? How do you go about this week to try and get this thing repaired and back on track?
So great question. I'm doing the You Matter right now because of your self-confidence and self-esteem. And Coach Stefanski, and if the Browns gods of Marty Schottenheimer are looking down from football heaven, would be saying some of the same things that we just talked about in terms of a a positiveness, a belief that it's a marathon, that it's one game and you need to put that behind you. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to learn from these mistakes. And I say a lot that rookies get the best between year one and year two, the development and stuff. Another part of the old school philosophy of that is how you get better between game one and game two. Actually, you saw Jim Harbaugh say that again yesterday. Is there's big improvements between game one and game two. Obviously, offensively, you don't want offensive performances like we just had this past Sunday, and there's nowhere really to go but up. But how do you get to go up and going to Jacksonville with that is a positiveness with them, and I also believe trying to not double down on all spread and all shotgun. It's really clear that we're having a communication issue, and it's fair too with all these injuries with the offensive line and protections and stuff. So I know and I'm not being a quarterback apologist, but the quarterback gets so much attention, but there was a lot of pressure yesterday. So I would be positive with Deshaun. I would be committed to him. I absolutely, though, would be giving him some plays that have more running game in it so that you could get after the D line and slow them down a little bit and get them to respect that the physicalness is around the line of scrimmage. And then that gets you into the game, because yesterday, if we could have stayed in the game with that puts pressure back on the opposing offense to try to do and make plays against our fantastic defense. And although they scored a lot of points yesterday and they had good balance, I mean, Dak got 19 for 32, 179 yards. Zeke, only 10 carries for 40 yards, 1 TD. I mean, that's a good mix they had. CeeDee Lamb only had 5 catches for 61 yards. When you can hold them kind of players at those tight numbers, you're close to doing good. So for this week's game, I'd really be wanting to create some positiveness with Deshaun and our offense, realizing that we're not there yet, so that we put the pressure somewhat on Jacksonville offense so that our defense has a chance to flourish.
Bernie, great stuff as always. Congratulations on your first granddaughter, first grandchild. All the best to you and your family. We thank you for joining us.
Appreciate you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
You matter.
Bernie.